Good morning. I'm Joel Miller. I'm the interim minister here at the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. So pleased to welcome you all this morning, a beautiful, sunny, fall, crispy day. I love the buzz of congregational life at the beginning of the service. It's so fun to see you all here and see you all so glad to see each other. It's a great feeling to be a part of that. And if you're still looking for ways to connect or you have questions about Unitarian Universalism, next Sunday after the service, I've got an information session. I'd love to meet with anybody who's got questions and would like to learn more about the fellowship. And if you can't come next Sunday, email me, give me a call. I would love to have coffee sometime. I've been thinking a lot about Thanksgiving. But I find, in a sort of a minister way, when I'm thinking about Thanksgiving, I'm thinking about how the world is and how sometimes I struggle with the way people treat one another in this world. I remember when I was a kid and living in a neighborhood that was very white, and every once in a while folks would talk about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. They'd be like, he wants so many things. Once somebody mentioned Malcolm X and everybody got real tense, like, oh my God, what was it about Malcolm X? Years later, I picked up the autobiography by Alex Haley that he wrote on the life of Malcolm X, and I was really very interested and so deeply moved at the end of his life. Malcolm X was a Muslim and was practicing the spiritual tradition of Islam, or as I understand it, submission. And he went on the Hajj, on the pilgrimage, toward the end of his life to go to Mecca, along with all the other Muslims who make the Hajj, make the pilgrimage as a part of their spiritual practice. Something that really struck me about how that changed Malcolm X's view of life. And I want to use his words rather than just tell you about them. He wrote home about his experience as a pilgrim. You may be shocked by these words coming from me. On this pilgrimage, what I have experienced has forced me to rearrange my thought patterns, to toss aside my previous conclusions. It was not too difficult. I've always been a man who tries to face facts and to accept reality. I've always kept an open mind. And true Islam taught me that it takes all of the religious, political, economic, psychological, and racial ingredients to make the human family and the human society complete. Since I learned the truth in Mecca, my dearest friends have come to include all kinds: Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, agnostics, even atheists, he writes. I guess I could have been his friend. I have friends who are called capitalists, socialists, and communists. Some of my friends are moderates, conservatives, extremists. My friends today are black, brown, red, yellow, and white. I came back to that again a couple of days ago when I was thinking about the spiritual practice of Thanksgiving and how important it is to me and how important it is as a part of our heritage, especially as Unitarians. And thinking a lot about pilgrimage and what it means for peace in these days. I'm so glad you are here. It's a part of that heritage and that openness to the beauty and pilgrimage that each of us is on in our lives. Good morning and welcome if you're online or here in person. Dan Reedy was going to be up here giving you the welcome today, and he couldn't make it this morning. Hi, Dan. I know he's at home watching. So Toby is with the raising his hand right there, and he'll have a table out in the Great Hall, the room right out there. If you made a purchase at the auction, he will have it there for you and can help you retrieve those goodies. Later today, after the service, it's game day at 3 p.m. You can come to game day and come meet some folks and have fun.
So I think up there, the slideshow was saying 2 p.m. So it's
2 p.m.?
So if you're saying it's 3 p.m., that's 3 p.m.
2? 3. Now you'll all remember it. It's actually 3 o'clock. Show up at 3. We'll be glad to see you. No. Okay. Nick tells me it's 2. I'm going for 2.
It's just because there was a difference.
Yeah, that's interesting. Next Sunday also is an Odyssey, a new member welcome, and we're just very glad you're here. And if you have any more questions, our music director, Michael Rosen, is here. We're always looking for folks to sing with the choir. And Nick Walwork, our religious educator, myself, Joel Miller, your interim minister. And if you call during the week, you'll talk to Katie Julich, who's wonderful, keeps things organized, and I'm very grateful for her. We light our chalice now. I invite you to share with me in this morning's affirmation. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. children's story for this morning. If there's anybody who'd like to come up and help me with the story, I'd love to have you come up and join me. Yeah, come on up. Now, I'm a little too old. I never saw, as a kid, I really never saw a show called Sesame Street. My kids did. Have you ever seen a show called Sesame Street? Yeah, you have. You don't like it? Oh.
I've seen the new Sesame Street.
Seen the new one.
And the old one.
And the old one. All right. Well, you know, I like to do. I liked Sesame Street, and there's this one story that I really like that I want to share with you today. It's called "Why Are You So Mean to Me?" And there's in this story, especially there's Grover and there's Big Bird. So they're characters from Sesame Street. And you'll actually be, if you want, you could even see some of the pictures. I brought pictures this morning too. Grover woke up smiling. Today was the day of the school picnic in Bluebird Park. Grover's mother gave Grover a big picnic lunch. Then she said, "I have a surprise for you." It was a baseball bat. Grover was so happy. "Now you can learn to play baseball," said Grover's mother. "I will be a super batter," said Grover. Now you know why I wanted to do this story.
That's a funny voice.
The school bus driver took Grover's class on the bus to Bluebird Park. Grover sat in the back with Truman. "My brother has a bat like yours," said Truman. "I play baseball with him all the time." "I have never played before," said Grover. The class played games all morning, and then they had their picnic lunch. And after lunch, it was time to play baseball. The teacher said, "Jill and Truman, you pick your teams." One by one, everyone was picked, but not Grover. "Truman, you need one more player. Take Grover." "Oh, no," said Truman. "Grover's never played before. He will make us lose." Truman's words hurt Grover. Grover said, "I will be a super batter." But Grover was not a super batter. He missed the ball every time. The other team shouted, "We won!" "I told you Grover was no good," said Truman. Everyone laughed. Grover felt very sad. Grover was walking home from school. He said to himself, "Why did all my friends make fun of me?" A tear rolled down his furry face. Grover kicked a can down the street. "Stupid can!" Grover looked at his bat. "Stupid bat!" When Grover was almost home, he came to Oscar's trash can and saw Big Bird. "Hi, Grover," said Big Bird. "Look, I made a painting of you." Grover looked at the picture. "That stinks! It does not look like me." Big Bird's eyes filled with tears. "Grover, why are you so mean to me? I'm your friend." Oscar the Grouch popped out of the trash can, because grouches live in trash cans in Sesame Street. "Who's making all that noise?" "Big Bird," said Grover. "Grover," said Big Bird. Grover looked at Big Bird and looked at Oscar and burst into tears. "Everyone made fun of me." Big Bird said, "Oh, you must feel so sad." Oscar said, "You mean mad." Grover said, "I am sad and mad." Big Bird said, "I have an idea. I can practice batting with you." Oscar gave them a rotten old baseball to use. "Now go away." Big Bird threw the ball over and over, and at last Grover hit the ball. Grover threw the ball over and over. Big Bird missed every time. "I'm even worse than you," said Big Bird. Grover and Big Bird laughed and laughed. "Big Bird," said Grover, "I did not mean it when I said your painting stinks. Please, may I have it?" "Sure," said Big Bird. Grover ran home. Grover's mother asked, "Did you have fun at the picnic?" Grover said, "Some of it was fun,
but everyone made fun of me because I am not a super batter.
Oh my, said Grover's mother. What did you do?
I yelled at Big Bird. Then I felt worse.
Oh my, then what?
Then we practiced. I hit the ball, and Big Bird gave me this nice painting.
Big Bird is a good friend, said Grover's mother. She helped Grover hang the painting. After supper, Grover said,
Mommy, will I ever be a super batter?
Grover's mother said, maybe, if you practice, and maybe you will not. Then she smiled, but you will always be good at being Grover, and that is most important. Thanks for coming up and helping me tell this story. And letting me do the voices. That was fun. Milestones, passages, gratitudes, a part of a time in which we recognize the importance of the way we practice this shared faith, this open way of being religious and all of its welcomeness of diversity, a way of being rather than a way of believing. On those days when we acknowledge the milestone, the passing of a member of our congregation. We bring a candle for the chalice table, for this altar. And this morning, we light this special candle for Lou Matuza, who died on Saturday, and for whom there is a memorial celebration in this room tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Lou Matuza's beloved, Dan Cohen, asks that if we would like to recognize Lou, that perhaps donations to the Michael J. Fox Foundation would be a good way to recognize if you would like suggestions. Marjorie Wormser has a gratitude. Nancy Lee McClure, whose illness last week was less intense and shorter in duration than Nancy was prepared for. We're so glad that she's on the mend and not having as much of a passage as expected. Today is tomorrow, I should say, is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. And so for those in our community and around our community who live every day with the worries and the fears of being a transgender person in a world that sometimes is hostile, we see you, we love you. We make note of the importance of you in our lives and our community. Shari Lowe shares a passage, an important story, especially for this morning. Please keep in your thoughts my daughter Sarah's partner, Bianca Baum. Bianca is from South Africa. Her stepfather is from Gaza. His family is still there. His immediate family have all lost their homes. 40 of his extended family were killed in the Gaza City Hospital explosions on October 23rd. He recently lost contact with his immediate family. They had been sheltering at a school, but were trying to get out. Sarah and Bianca have lost friends for sharing this truth, these stories about their family on social media. And gratitudes. Happy birthday, Elizabeth Bain, 83 years. We supported RAMP last week, and gratitude from the volunteers to RAMP from this fellowship. RAMP just welcomed its 11th family into a new safe life in New Jersey, and we're a part of their new life here and their success. Thank you to the fellowship. A gratitude for the life of Marvin Chandler, friend, musician, minister, Attica observer who died Halloween week in Indiana, aged 98. And gratitude for this congregation, for the wisdom, for the joy, for the compassion you share, for the bright beacon of justice and peace and compassion that you shine all around this community and in the larger world. I invite you into a moment of contemplation and prayer. Spirit of life, mysterious presence, holy face in the faces of this beautiful congregation. Soon we'll eat the ritual food, maybe turkey meat, or maybe tofu turkey, or maybe something entirely different this year. I myself am partial to pumpkin pie. Some of us like cranberries from a can. We'll say some old prayers, we'll say some new prayers too. We'll give thanks. Some of us will be in our homes. Some of us will be at restaurants with servers. Some of us will give thanks in an emergency shelter. Some of us might give thanks in a sunny vacation beach house. Some of us might give thanks from a hospital bed. Some of us may give thanks inside a prison cafeteria, or maybe under a tent in a refugee camp. Others from firehouse tables or break rooms in hospitals, or perhaps while working in factories that never close. Wherever we are, let us give thanks. And for a moment, may all of these places feel like they can be home. And in those moments of thankfulness, let us all be together in this web of life. For us to pray or to meditate or to gather is to remember the simple fact that we are all connected. And in our connections, we can find so much to be thankful for, no matter where we are. Amen. So be it. Blessed be.
We sing now together our song of thanksgiving, rejoicing in goods which the ages have wrought. For life that enfolds us, and helps and heals and holds us, and leads beyond once sought. We sing of the freedoms which martyrs and heroes have won by their labor, their sorrow, their pain. The Mass is a friendly, our emperor hopes is bending. Their death becomes a triumph, they died not in vain. We sing of the prophets, the teachers and dreamers, designers, creators and workers and seers. Our own lives expanding, our gratitude amending, the deeds that made immortal their days and their years. We sing of community now in the making, with every form, continent, nation, and land, with those of all races, all times and names and places. We pledge ourselves in covenant firmly to stand.
As I think about being a pilgrim, one of the things about being a pilgrim is that it takes some practice. And I turned to Brene Brown for the reading today. If you look her up on the internet, she has some YouTube videos. There's an interview with Oprah, I think. And I like Brene Brown for her humor and for her kindness. She writes, practicing courage, practicing compassion, practicing connection in our daily lives is how we cultivate worthiness. The key word is practice. Mary Daly, a feminist theologian, writes, courage is a habit, a virtue. You get courage by doing courageous acts. In the same way you learn to swim by swimming, you learn courage by couraging. The same is true for compassion and connection. We invite compassion into our lives when we act compassionately towards ourselves and others, and connected in our lives when we reach out and connect out of our courage. We take our offering this morning now, split 50-50 with Black Lives Matter Morristown for their Adopt a Family holiday program benefiting families here in Morris County.
I know you may have looked at the offertory title and nothing, been a bit perplexed. We're singing nothing today. This is a wonderful short tune by Alice Parker, and it fits with a lot of what we're speaking and singing about today. You see most of the text is very reverent and a bit poignant about nature, but specifically our interaction with the world around us. And as the dominant species, we must remind ourselves that we are mere visitors and just a speck of dust in this lifetime, in this world, in this universe. And so this anthem is, it just displays all those contradictions. Look where there's nothing to see, touch when there's nothing there, listen when there's nothing to hear. And it is a bit sad, but it reflects on what we must always remind ourselves. And I think the greatest success is leaving us with more questions than answers.
There's nothing to
Okay, new update direct from the source, Rita Morris herself. Today's games are at 3 p.m. Okay, it's 3 p.m. Well, there's no way we'll forget now, right? You know, my fiance is Jewish, and one of my best friends from high school, Sabra, which is a Hebrew word for somebody born and raised in Israel. Another one of my best friends from my childhood is Palestinian. And I've watched the violence in Israel and Palestine and even the echoes of the violence here in the United States, and it's been heartbreaking. Jews and Palestinians I know and love are suffering terribly, and I cannot even imagine losing 40 people out of my family. Yes, there's terrorism, and there are war crimes. They're coming out of a complicated history in those lands. It's remarkable to me how few Americans understand the context of what's happening there and lay over incredibly inappropriate understandings or contexts that they think help them understand what's going on. I'm not sure I could speak coherently to you, certainly not as I couldn't speak about the politics of what's happening there in a coherent way. It's not my profession. But as a minister, I watch what's happening, and I think about what am I going to say to the people I serve? I think there is a simple thing that for me, I have tried to keep in mind as I've watched with such sadness. Both countries are beset by evil governments, both their own governments and the governments that surround them, and the governments that have played a role in the policies enacted in these two lands. Gaza is controlled by Hamas terrorists. Now, mind you, the terrorist leaders are not even in Gaza right now. Those leaders are in Qatar, hosted by their sponsors, the autocratic dictators of Qatar. Israel is beset by a right-wing government that is so stupid, as well as corrupt, they think they can get rid of Hamas by bombing children in hospitals. Maybe they should talk to the autocrats in Qatar. I've said more about the politics than I probably should have from the pulpit. I long for a ceasefire, which I know is complicated. I long for a long-term peaceful solution for these peoples and for my friends. I have a pretty simple suggestion, though, for those who govern, for those who are causing this harm. The autocrats that surround these lands, the terrorists and the idiots who run them, and sometimes even our own government. If your policies require violence against children, you're one of the bad guys. I'm thinking a lot about power this Thanksgiving season. I've seen a lot of misuse of power. I get angry on behalf, not just on behalf of my friends, but on behalf of people I haven't met, but especially children. How can anyone behave like this? The spiritual practice of Thanksgiving is important to me, especially in times like this. So I grew up a Unitarian Universalist, and the church I grew up in nurtured everything I cherish about my life. That experience shaped the way I see the world, how I came to understand how important it is to be in community with others, especially spiritual community. Unitarian Universalists have had a complicated relationship with power also. early on, Unitarians especially played a central role in the American Revolution and the creation of the United States. 4 presidents have been Unitarians. They understood, in the way many Unitarian Universalists understood in earlier times, that humans can use power over, especially if we use rational and logical thought. We can control the world around us. We can make the right and the correct decisions. Ethics was the practice of exercising power properly. But as I learned from the feminist mothers, the spiritual mothers that I grew up with, and those that I later read as a theological student, power over is not a generative or sustainable way of practicing life or being in the world. You know, it's interesting. Also, as we go into Thanksgiving, those of you who are older may remember a lot of the stories told about the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims got on the Mayflower. They were escaping the tyrannical, autocratic English king. They went over to a place called Plymouth, landed on a rock, and found a place to make a new home, one in which they would have freedom and give each other freedom. Now, that congregation that they brought with them, that they had started in Scrooby, England, that was in Holland for a time, they brought with them then to what became New England. Today, that very same congregation is known as First Parish of Plymouth, Unitarian Universalist. So, well, you could say we're the Pilgrims, and I do want to acknowledge how important those roots are to us. They were in some ways very theologically conservative, but yet many of the ways we are, the way that, for example, your this is a congregation in search for its next minister. And when your search committee finds someone and presents them to you, you will vote on whether to call that minister. It comes very much out of the Pilgrim tradition. We don't base our community on your believing the one true thing, but on believing well. That's very Pilgrim also. But if we were to say, because of our roots with them, we're the Pilgrims would say, don't do that. First of all, they never called themselves the Pilgrims, and they'd be horrified to think that there were, in the United States history, there were only the Pilgrims and no one else is a pilgrim. They would say, don't do that. They would say, be pilgrims, all of you, be pilgrims. They would encourage us to be small p pilgrims. Because as they understood, the search for truth is never finished, and the work for peace is always ongoing, and the need to practice love is the most important thing we do in our lives. And if we want to claim them as spiritual ancestors, they would say, fine, but anybody else who wishes to may also. We're not exclusive. They would say, if you're going to do that, though, be a pilgrim, which is why I'm thinking a lot today about what it means to be a pilgrim and how that might help us when we find ourselves in a Thanksgiving Day conversation with our very progressive nephew or our Trump-voting brother-in-law. There are many writers on the practice of pilgrimage. One writer, Bruce Feiler, describes himself as a secular Jew. And he writes a lot about making pilgrimages through the lands of the Old Testament, how he goes camping with Jews, camping with Christians, camping with Muslims alike. He writes that the power of pilgrimage is the willingness to place the spiritual lessons of the past over political or other divisions of the present. That is, the desire to connect to a place, not as a tourist, but as a pilgrim, connecting for meaning. Another writer, Philip Cousineau, describes pilgrimage as a transformative journey to a sacred center. To be a pilgrim is to be open to transformation, to make a journey that you will allow to change you. You will allow yourself to be changed by the journeys you make. Because you're not on vacation. You're not going on a tour. You are on a life journey. And it will present challenges because you are journeying into deeper meaning, to the practice of a profound love. Most writers on being a pilgrim will say you'll need three things. Be a pilgrim. You need a pilgrim for a pilgrimage. Secondly, a sacred destination. And thirdly, a grateful soul. We're in the season of practicing gratitude, of being grateful souls. And many of us will have very different destinations in the pilgrimages of this Thanksgiving week. And you know, all the religions in every human era have celebrated pilgrimage. Pilgrims make journeys to pray, they make journeys to ask for help or forgiveness, they make journeys to make amends. Pilgrimages can happen for so many different reasons. But the three things remain: the traveler, the destination of meaning, more necessarily than necessarily a place, and the sense of gratitude. There are countless sacred places all over the world. The banks of the Ganges River are sacred to Hindus. Every devout Muslim hopes to make the Hajj to Mecca. In upstate New York, I got to know some of the Seneca people and was invited to make a pilgrimage to a sacred place in the hills near the southern New York border with Pennsylvania. Lakota American Indians make spiritual pilgrimages to their Sundance rituals every year, not so much a place, but to an activity. And even Unitarian Universalists sometimes will make pilgrimages to Boston, or perhaps to Romania, or even the Khasi Hills of India. This is the kind of power that blesses the world. We can be on a pilgrimage at any time in our lives. And the distinction, the kind of power that we create and discover with one another when we are pilgrims, is different than the power of domination, the power over that autocrats like to practice. I was so excited by the pilgrimage that the Chinese people were on until recently. The dogmas and rigidities of communism had loosened up. And China, there had been this flowering of culture and this economic explosion of economic activity and the creation of wealth. And then some years ago, 4 years ago or so, China was beset yet again by a dictator, telling them all to do exactly as he demands. Everybody has to carry a phone in China, follows them around, and if you hang out with the wrong people, you get a life score, and it goes down because you're hanging out with somebody like a Unitarian Universalist. Power over instead of power with. And actually, being a free market kind of guy, I love the power with of a really free market. But when you go with power over, no surprise to me personally, now the economy in China is an absolute mess. And people there are afraid all the time. And that's the thing about power over. It eventually consumes itself in war, oppression. Our children, The children of this world have the right to expect every adult on this earth to live lives of connection. Children anywhere and everywhere need to see us working together at the tasks of life. They need to see us going to neighborhood association meetings, see us peacefully working out our differences, see us planning for their future and building schools. They should see us feeding people who are without a home in the moment. They should see us teaching shul or Sunday school or be in the ashram. They should see us recycling and composting our waste. They should see us practicing power with for their generation. So this Thanksgiving, it's not just a day for me, but a way of life, remembering how important our connections are, how much it will matter to be kind to everybody we share a Thanksgiving meal with, even in the moments they cannot be kind to us. As we practice, each of us, our own pilgrimage, at least with a destination being one of love and deep connection, and one that begins always in gratitude. Perhaps they too will see the possibilities of how to truly build and sustain a peaceful world. Let our time of Thanksgiving this season be a reminder. Let us be pilgrims. And as we learn and relearn ever again to give thanks and to begin with thanks in the moments we feel lost, let us give freedom to those who will be blessed out of our own love and appreciation. And in this interconnected world, if we will be comforted, if we will have our hungers filled, if we will bring justice to this world, we will do it by being pilgrims and bringing all of that to the world itself. Only by departing as pilgrims with gratitude will we ever reach the world we long for.
And on the heels of that beautiful sermon by Joel, a song by who I believe is a perpetual pilgrim, and I'm a fan of him by way of this song, as we all should be perpetual pilgrims. Jim Scott's The Oneness of Everything. I know I keep saying this, but do listen very, very closely to the lyrics of this song. Wherever you're most comfortable, sitting, standing, lying down, on your hands.
beautiful people. Thank you for this community. Thank you for all you do with the gifts of those who've gone before us here, and do for all who will follow us and need what we have made for them today. Go in peace, be in peace. Have a happy Thanksgiving.